What's going on, everybody? Adrian here, and welcome back to the channel. We're continuing our MMORPG report card series for the end of the year 2018, and this time it's for Guild Wars 2. Did Guild Wars 2 have a good year? I'm going to be talking about my experience of playing Guild Wars 2 a lot. This is another of my daily driver MMOs, so we'll recap the content that drop and all the other things in between as well. So let's begin with the content drops. Guild Wars 2 released 3 episodes this year for its Living World Season 4, continuing the main story from last year's Path of Fire expansion, beginning with episode 2, A Bug in the System. This one launched on March the 6th, and it introduced the Senseweb Isles, a new legendary dagger, and a new mastery Bond of Life. Now, I have individual reviews for each of the episodes that came out this year, so if you want more information on them, you can check out my channel and my Guild Wars 2 playlist. So, I'm going to keep things short here and say that episode 2 wasn't one of my favorites in terms of content released this year, but there were some highlights that I did enjoy. Firstly, from the narrative point of view, the Senseweb Isles introduced the Olmacon, which was a great new look at the Char, because all I've known about Char has been the military version in Ascalon, and now we see a more tribal Char, so that was pretty interesting. The map meta was also pretty fun, with the bosses and getting players to get together and take down these experimental bosses. The RNG nature of it simply meant that you're going to be doing that a lot more to get the achievement done. The cool thing for me though is that you can earn that 32 slot bag by simply doing one of the achievements here, which was a nice touch. From a story perspective, I did have fun in this one. I think it's one of the shortest episodes of the year as well compared to episode 3 and 4, but it does introduce important characters to us like Blush and Gorik, who has a big part to play moving forward, and the new mastery Bond of Life was pretty helpful, because if your mount is taking damage and it's about to go and unseat you, then hitting this mastery will let you share your character's health pool with your mount's health pool, so you can take more damage and just zoom through scores of mobs if you're trying to get to somewhere or someone quickly. Moving on now to the next content drop, episode 3, Long Live the Lich, dropped June 26th, and this one introduced a new legendary Warhorn, a new map, the Domain of Korna, a new fractal Deepstone, a new mount as well, the Roller Beetle. Let's start off with the new mapped Domain of Korna. I did like this map a lot with the design and how it looked, but more importantly, the meta was also fun. In fact, I had more fun in this one than in episode 2 because of the map meta. Because the map meta felt more engaging, it was a series of events that really made sense. So as players, we had to take back the cannons, and then we had to get it prepared to fire on Palawajoko's fortress. And once we finally fired, we can then go in and kill the boss and grab the loot. Now, it wasn't that great for gold farming at all, or for loot bag farming. I think episode 1 is still going to be the best and hard to beat, but the fun factor is definitely there. As for the highlights in episode 3, definitely the main story here, because Palawajoko comes front and center, and I've always liked Palawajoko. I think I said this in my review as well. This is one Guild Wars 2 antagonist, or Guild Wars antagonist, that has so much character than most of the baddies in the game, period. And I just love seeing that climax of our rivalry and how it all started, especially for me back in Path of Fire when I first encountered this guy, and now he's trying to unleash havoc onto the world, and he's a real big distraction because we still have Kralkatorrik to worry about, but this guy now wants to give Tyria hell, so we have to stop him at all costs. So the final boss fight was good fun, but the cutscene after that was what really got me laughing and enjoying the episode all the more. We thought we killed him, he wasn't dead, and in comes Oreen for a quick snack. Now, whether or not Palawajoko is really dead, who knows, but from a story perspective, episode 3 was definitely a fun romp. Now, let's talk about the Roller Beetle mount that got introduced in episode 3 as well. I honestly didn't think ArenaNet or Guild Wars 2 would introduce a brand new mount. I thought all the core mounts with Path of Fire, including the Griffin, would be done and dusted. That was it, no more mounts, and all we were getting moving forward were just mount skins in the gem store. I was glad I was proven wrong, because that simply means we could expect more interesting or unique mounts with more usable and functional skills in the future to help players enjoy the game world more. So the Roller Beetle is one hell of a mount to learn how to control, but when you do get it right, it's just going to help you navigate through long, distant, flat ground so much quicker than probably any other mount in game. And it's also nice to see that Guild Wars 2 have now added some unique content for the Roller Beetle. So we have Roller Beetle Racing, which came out only recently, and there's a lot of prizes and sweepstakes that ArenaNet has gone through to give players only in the US and Canada, I think. So at least there's some content for that. I mean, it's not something I would do. I'm not a big fan of these racing stuff, but I can't complain. The content is there. You do it if you want to. As for the new Fractal Deepstone, I haven't jumped into Fractals or the new raid at all this year, and for group content like this, I usually get my fix elsewhere in other games, so I can't really say if this was a great addition when it came to Fractals and the raid this year. You guys have played it, you tell me, was the Deepstone Fractal any good or not, because I'm also hearing that it's not a favorite of players. So let's move on to episode 4 now, A Star to Guide Us. This one hit September 18. Introduced a new map, the Jahi Bluffs. This one came with a new raid, the Mithrite Gambit. You had a new legendary as well, a new mastery, Bond of Vigor, the upgradable armor set, and Sun's Refuge. We'll start off with Jahi Bluffs. This is probably my favorite map in terms of design and size and the things that you can do on this map. Yep, the Jahi Bluffs had pretty much everything. As I said in my review for episode 4, it's almost like a little piece of everything that's happened in Guild Wars 2 in the past is on this map because of what's happening in the main narrative. We've gotten rid of Palawa Joko, and now the fights back to Kralkatorrik. He's been tracking Aurene and has been causing chaos everywhere in the mists and the rest of Ilona, so the Jahi Bluffs is feeling the effects of that. Lots of places are getting branded, and there's tears in the mists as well on the map, so there's areas of Maguma, so it's a good throwback to Heart of Thorns. The meta for this map was real fun though, the meta event, because it was another Shatterer, and as far as Guild Wars 2 world bosses go, the Shatterer was one of my firsts ever in Guild Wars 2, and I have some attachment to that damn dragon. When you take part in the Shatterer for the first time and you see the amount of players around you all working together to take down one big dragon, you know, it kind of imprints in your brain like, oh shit, this is fun, I want to do this more. So Shatterer 2.0 was pretty much the same, but you could do lots of fun stuff too, with Griffin dive bombing, using golems if you successfully manage to do the escort quest coming up from the south, or use giant worms as well. This is my favorite map meta for 2018. For sure. The story in this episode is my personal highlight for Guild Wars 2 in 2018 with regards to the Living World Season 4 story, because it does a bunch of different things. The first one is it gives a lot more closure to one of the characters that has sort of split the player base a little bit, and I'm talking about Bram. Bram is one of those polarizing characters, just like Timey. People either like them or they don't like them, and with Bram, because of what happened to his mother, Erstegalkin, in Heart of Thorns, he sort of goes rogue and gives us the cold shoulder when we invite him into Dragon's Watch, our guild, and he always just seems so distant and broody. And at the time I was kind of feeling a lot of what players were saying, you know, this guy, what is ArenaNet trying to do with this character? It just takes away from the enjoyment of the story. And I did see that for a while, but in episode 4 there was a reason for that. During the chapter when we get Sun's Refuge back, Erstegalkin came back from the mists to give Aurene a warning, and there was a nice moment in there where Bram finally got to talk to his mother, and she basically said, hey, I'm dead, it's over now, these guys are your family, so stop being an idiot, and the sooner you realize that, the better. And that sort of affected Bram heavily, and that's all it took. So this was a character arc that's been developing for a while, and we finally get the resolution to it, so that was nice to see. And at the end of the episode, when Timey kind of revealed that she was dying, yeah, that also got me pretty emotional, because I've said in many of my videos, she's one of my favorite characters in Guild Wars 2 at the moment, so that was pretty hard to take. And of course, Belicious' epic sacrifice, which is gonna be hard to top, but who am I to say? I have no idea what's coming next in episode 5, but overall, from a story perspective, absolutely enjoyed episode 4, A Star to Guide Us. So let's wrap up the content side of things here. 3 episodes in total. The story continues, and I do like how the story picked up this year, because it's really building to the big one come next year, and we've already seen the trailer for episode 5, All or Nothing, and it does appear to be the final confrontation with Kralkatorrik, so yeah, I can't wait. Now, outside of content, let's move on to the other stuff that Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet introduced in 2018. There's gameplay updates, improvements, tweaks, and all that goodness. So let's get into it, beginning with the improvements made to underwater combat. This came out of the blue. There was no indication that ArenaNet was working on fixing underwater combat, and to be honest, before this, I didn't even feel like underwater combat there was any issues with it. I just didn't like playing underwater, even though there's lots of content that happens underwater in Guild Wars 2. You have events underwater, you've got races and villages that live underwater, you've got waypoints underwater, and if you've ever played through the ore regions, then yeah, underwater is going to be second nature to you pretty much. But I spent 90% of my Guild Wars 2 playtime on land, so this didn't really affect me. But what they've done is they've made combat underwater feel as fluid as on land. They tried to keep the pace consistent so you wouldn't feel bogged down underwater. They also added treasure hunt chests that you can open daily. You kill 10 crates anywhere in the world and you get a key, and you can open these chests for some rewards. The vendor for this stuff sells you swim speed infusions and a couple of other things, but minor update to underwater combat. I can't remember anybody asking for this, but hey, thumbs up, I guess we'll take it if there is going to be more underwater content updates coming, but if there isn't, then I can't understand why they went ahead and did this anyway. Moving on now, let's talk about the gathering tools update, where players could now put some boosts on your gathering tools. Some of them give you 50% speed after gathering something just to move faster. Now, out in the open world, I couldn't care less because I'll just get on my mount and move forward. But in world versus world, where I guarantee you, every keep you come across, every tower that you come across, if you're in a pug commander group, everybody will stop to gather resources. Now, this is where it can get handy if you just want to move around faster or not, because you can't use mounts in world versus world. Moving on now, we got community weapons dropping this year. Also, Guild Wars 2 had a design a weapon contest, and the 3 winners got their designs added into the game. Now, to get them, there was a series of things that players had to do. Overall, they were quick, and I did like the designs for a lot of these. Next up is a major highlight in terms of system improvements for Guild Wars 2 in 2018, and that is making runes and sigils salvageable. This is absolutely huge because of how runes and sigils have been clogging inventory space for years and years since launch, actually. Now, the benefits I really like from this update is, first and foremost, it gets rid of all that inventory clutter. And if you're a player like me that sometimes when I get on, I just want to make some gold, right? So I'll be farming riba and world bosses and other events a lot, and I need that inventory space. So now, by just salvaging everything, including runes and sigils, is going to save me so much time. So how does this update benefit players exactly? Not only can you salvage runes and sigils, this update also made some major changes to existing runes and sigils in terms of their stats and their benefits and everything, and ArenaNet has said that they'll continue to look at existing ones just to make sure that it's an even playing field moving forward. And the fact that now we can also craft them, never mind the recipes, that's a different problem, but if there's going to be more collectibles in the future that require sigils or runes, then at least we can be independent about it and get them via other ways instead of having to pay ridiculous amounts of prices for them on the auction house. And the last couple of updates are really the UI, where the game has now given you a quick access to your chairs, your thrones, and other toys that you can just click from the main UI instead of having to go into your inventory or go to your hero panel. So that was pretty nice. And then there's all the other festivals. We saw the return of the Festival of the Four Winds, which hasn't been around for quite some time, so it was nice. This was my first Festival of the Four Winds, which I did enjoy. The SAB also returned, I think, and all your usual festivals in Guild Wars 2. Halloween, Winter's Day. So that pretty much wraps up gameplay updates and tweaks. Oh, and before I forget, Guild Wars 2 also added 2v2 as PvP matches now, so that should make guild competitions and tournaments more fun, especially if you're streaming it or if you're just holding a social competition for PvP. The big news for PvP this year was actually just shared on the forums and on the website, where ArenaNet talked about their plans for restructuring World versus World. And this is the one that I was looking forward to the entire year. I really thought this was going to hit in 2018, but unfortunately not the case anymore. So what this does is it's going to get rid of all the hassle of trying to change servers just so you could play with your friends on another server or join your guild on the server that they're on. World restructuring aims to get rid of that problem entirely, alongside a couple of other things that should help with the player population for World versus World, making it more accessible to everyone and all that stuff. And World versus World is my favorite PvP mode, not just in Guild Wars 2, but for MMORPGs in general. So yeah, a little disappointed that we didn't get to see or hear more about this. So I'm hoping 2019 is the year we get to see this new update for World PvP. So that's the major recap for Guild Wars 2 in 2018. Overall, did I feel like Guild Wars 2 had a good year? In the content department, I don't have a lot to complain from a narrative point of view. I play Guild Wars 2 mostly to continue the narrative journey in this game. And if that takes me to new maps with new group content to do on the landscape, new meta events to play with players seamlessly without an organized group, new rewards that I can earn by being a solo player, then I'm all for it. And in that regard, Guild Wars 2 has delivered. But like I said, the World vs. World update was also something I was hoping would drop this year, and the fact that it didn't, I am a little disappointed, but I am keeping the faith with ArenaNet. So when that hits, hopefully next year, it's going to be awesome. Other than that, outside the game, I was really impressed this year with the Welcome to Guild Wars 2 community event, where everybody, existing players, veterans, content creators, even the devs themselves, got together to put together this campaign to welcome new players to Guild Wars 2 by hosting a lot of giveaways, giveaways, multiple live streams, in-game contests, and a whole lot more in a span of 2 weeks or more. And as a player and a content creator myself, it was an absolute joy to see the effect in that. This was one of the highlights, not just for Guild Wars 2 as a community, but for MMOs as a community, because this is what communities should feel like and what we can do to be more welcoming to new players or players are looking for new homes. So this was a highlight. Any downsides? Yeah, there's one I can think of. Sometime mid-year, I think, there was a really public spat between a former ArenaNet dev and a content creator or content partner, and it really started out of nothing, but everything just blew out of proportion. And the way the internet works now, the way YouTube works, is that this was seen as an opportunity to cash in on some drama, and drama always equates to clicks and views and money. So unfortunately, this got way more coverage than it should. I myself didn't cover it because exactly what I said, it's just drama, and there's no place for that on my channel whatsoever. So I'm not even gonna go into it, but basically, ArenaNet handled the matter by letting go of the employee. There was some backlash for that because the media does what the media thinks it does right, which is report the story based on whatever events will get the most views and clicks. So that's that. That was some unwanted publicity that ArenaNet had to endure through, but overall, for me personally, I thought they made the right decision there. So that's the only downer from ArenaNet in the public space. Other than that, Guild Wars 2 keeps soldiering on. We're heading into the 7th year in 2019. So overall, I'd say, yeah, a solid year for Guild Wars 2. 2019 has to be big for Guild Wars 2. I personally am hoping for an expansion announcement, a new class maybe, and most importantly for me, that world versus world restructuring. I need to see that in 2019. So that's it from me, guys. For those of you that play Guild Wars 2 as your main game, feel free to share your thoughts about your highlights for Guild Wars 2 in 2018. Did you think Guild Wars 2 had a good year? Let me know in the comments section below. Hit the like button for more vids and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more MMO content. Once again, I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Hey, thanks for watching that video. Welcome to the dreaded end screen. If you want to watch more vids, you can click the cards at the bottom of the screen here and subscribe if you want to. Otherwise, guys, it's the end of the year. Have a great holiday season ahead. Enjoy your Christmas and New Year. I'll see you all when you get back. Take care.